Today we got Coach Steve. I'm not going to try to pronounce Coach Steve's last name because I will butcher it. He sent it to me the other day in a text message, and no, that ain't happening. If he wants to do it, he can do it. But Coach Steve is the varsity O-line coach and run game coordinator at Addison Trail High School. He also runs a podcast called the Sideline Podcast that you can find on Spotify. I'm assuming probably a couple other places. Through the and I know he uses the Anchor app for a lot of that. Coach Steve is also a regular with me on Coach Sheffer's various podcasts that he produces for program overviews and just chit-chatting about a bunch of other regular stuff. So, Coach Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's 55 degrees out in Illinois, so we don't know what's going to happen there. And we're just waiting on to see if we're going to play football in the fall. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Now before we get started, because we mentioned the temperature, you said you had a Dino Babers story.
I did. We were just talking about certain coaches wearing stuff. So I went to Eastern Illinois, and I went there when Jimmy G was there. I'm older than Jimmy G, but I helped out their spring ball, and Dino Babers was there. Now, if you guys don't know Dino Babers, he's the head coach of Syracuse. He's been around Texas because he was at Baylor. He was, in Hawaii. He coached at Eastern Illinois way back when, but he was there. In spring ball, I'm helping set up the cameras for the film, and it's probably the same temperature it is now. You could be in a hoodie and shorts or long sleeve sweatpants. He comes out in like a parka, another coat over that, beanie, and the coaches are giving him crap, and he goes, I'm from Texas. This 55, 60 degree weather is ridiculous. So he's walking around like fat guy in a little coat thing and stopwatch and gloves, and then as it goes on, he puts another beanie on over the other beanie. He's like, I can't take this. And now he's at Syracuse, so I don't know how he survived. To me, that was a funny thing to see Dino Babers do.
Hey, I know how it feels. Like I said, I lived in Texas for 7 years. I remember stuff I thought felt good when I first moved down there. Like you'd have people like in like full like winter coats and stuff when it drops below 50, and you're like, this isn't really that cold yet. I mean, but also it never gets really below 30 there consistently anyways. So, I mean, you get it. I mean, but it is what it is.
And he had a stopwatch because they had to go fast, and he had the gloves on, and he couldn't hardly do it. He was, I got stories. If they didn't snap the ball in 12 seconds, he was throwing it down and like throwing a fit.
Whatever he's doing is working. I mean, he's done a pretty good job at Syracuse. And where was he before that? I'm trying to remember. Was it Bowling Green? Where was he head coach?
Yeah. He went from Eastern Illinois to Bowling Green, then he went from Bowling Green to Syracuse, and this is the longest tenure at Syracuse because at Eastern it was 2 years, Bowling Green was 2 years, and now Syracuse.
I know he's been rumored for a couple jobs, but I mean, to me that's not. I mean, he probably wants a warmer climate at some point. I mean, with him being a Texas boy, but it's still not. I mean, that's still a pretty dang good job.
And what was cool, he took the whole Eastern staff with him. So whoever was with him at Eastern, he took them to Bowling Green, and then they kind of went their own ways a little bit. And then he took most of them to Syracuse too. Yeah. So whoever was left, he continues to take with him. And one of his guys, who's from Illinois, he's the head coach at Kent State now.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He's from Oakland, Illinois. My neighbors across the hall went to high school with him. He played at Wisconsin. He was at Eastern Illinois as the tight ends coach. Very passionate guy. He's going to move up. Kent State's going to turn around here in a year or two, and he'll keep moving.
Oh, they're already on the right track. Yeah, Sean Lewis, that's his name. Sean Lewis is fantastic. His staff is great too. Like they're always at our state clinic. They're always chit chatting. They're very open. I love their special teams coordinator. That man has more energy than humanly possible. Like I love. Like I said, even though I am a proud Ohio grad, which I am at repping my Ohio gear today. I will recognize what he's done at Kent State because I remember that job. Nobody wanted that job. Like they interviewed a bunch of people, and I know like Ed Warner was a finalist, and then they suddenly just out of the blue interviewed like the Syracuse offensive coordinator. Like, and you had no idea what his connection was, and he got the job, and he did a good job finding a very young and hungry staff there, and they've done a fantastic job. Give me 1 second, Coach. Gotta check something. Yep, we're good. Yeah, so Coach Steve and I are.
They almost beat Illinois.
Yeah. After we got through the stories, but Coach Steve and I are going to talk a little offense today. Kind of stuff he's done in the past. We're not going to get too much what they're doing because, again, they're still trying to see if they're going to have a season this fall or in the spring and kind of what that looks like. And then we're going to talk a little Mike Leach because Coach Steve is, for those of you who don't know, Coach Steve is a diehard Mike Leach fan. You can't have this man on a podcast without him talking Mike Leach. And then you just ignore the Bears because that'll hold down our pipe stove. But before we get to that, Coach Steve, I do want to talk to you because you are a diehard Illinois fan for some reason. I still don't understand that, but we'll go with it. But how does it feel to finally have a schedule and see Illinois is going to start 0-1?
Well, I don't know if diehard is the right term. I feel like I have to be an Illinois fan because I grew up 20 minutes from the campus. So all my friends, we wear Illinois stuff, we root for them, but we know what's going to happen. Tailgating at Illinois is really, really fun. So that's kind of why. But I root. So if I had to pick a team to root for every time, it's Illinois because I grew up there. Now I like other teams. To go 0-1, it's going to suck. I don't know. I don't know where. The only team I know in the Big Ten that's going to come out and do well is Ohio State because a lot of those guys stayed. Like they wanted to stay. I don't know what Wisconsin did, but we upset them last year, and so Wisconsin might be a little hungry this year. I don't know.
I look at your schedule because I have it right in front of my face because our head coach literally just sent it out before we came here. I see what I would classify as probably 3 guaranteed losses, and the rest are winnable. With one being a surefire win, in my opinion. Okay, you've lost to Wisconsin just because you upset them last year. I think they're going to be ready for you. I think you can beat Purdue. It depends on what Purdue team you get. Like, you know as I do. Purdue's either going to be solid or they're going to be bad. Minnesota's a winnable game. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, I love PJ Fleck. I know people love or hate him, but I think he's done a great job there. Rutgers is a win. It's going to take Shiano some time. That's not going to happen overnight. Nebraska, I think, is a win unless something dramatically changes for them. I think they have I think Scott Frost is a great head coach. It's not working right now. Ohio State loss. Iowa's probably a loss, and you can beat Northwestern. Even though I love Pat Fitzgerald to death. I think Pat Fitzgerald is great. He's one of my favorite clinic speakers I've ever seen. But yeah, and we'll see.
Well, the thorn in Illinois' backside has always been Northwestern. I think it's just because it's people say it's an in-state rivalry, but it's really not. But it gets treated that way sometimes. And Northwestern plays Illinois tough every year, so yeah. I never look at it that way. But someone was talking this morning about Wisconsin. They said the only chance we have is because Wisconsin won't have fans. There won't be that jumping around and that energy. So they said if they don't have that, Illinois might be okay to not get flustered.
Yeah, but it's also hard to offset 6'6", 320-pound offensive linemen that will just whack you in the face too. Like, that is one of their major strengths is they recruit offensive linemen. Them in Iowa just recruit these big hosses and are able to run zone and power down your throat. And like, it's impressive. I'll give them that. Like, I was like, it must be fantastic to live up there because I rarely see 6'6" offensive linemen. So at least, I mean, like, you're part of the country's producing something. But yeah, so I just wanted to give you a little jab there. I mean, I wish them well. As you constantly remind me, Illinois did beat Ohio State once upon a time at one time. But I
have to educate these young folks that don't remember that. The young folk that don't remember the one time.
I was at that game. Thank you very much. And I watched Juice Williams run up and down that field like a madman, and it was miserable. It was cold too, but it was miserable. Like, the only thing I've seen that was worse than that in terms of just somebody just running up and down the field like that was, it might have been that year or year before. I don't even remember. I was watching Michael Vick run up and down the field on the Bengals, like, just scooting. And it's just like, and he had nobody to throw to. That was the other thing people forget, is Michael Vick legitimately had, outside of Algie Crumpler, who's his tight end, Michael Vick had nobody to throw to. He had, I think, Warwick Dunn was his running back, if I remember correctly. and nothing. So, all right, let's move on to offense. What I mean, me and you've talked a little bit, but not overly in depth. Like obviously you're a big air raid guy, but what have you as a OC or and a assistant coach? What run schemes have you been involved in? What have you preferred to run at the high school level?
Um, so when I played, I try to explain to some coaches, and that's hard to explain. If you could picture the Maryland I formation, and you just take the halfback and move them over, that was what we ran. We ran midline option, speed option. We were option, option, option. I played in it. I coached in it, so I was around that. I went to a different school. They were pro style, so we were I formation. So there we had our, your leads, your powers, your counter, your trap, all that stuff. Then and I became offense coordinator with that same run that. And then got a different head coach. He wanted to be a spread team. And then we were in Charleston, which is right by Eastern Illinois. So all the rage was Dino Babers is 12-second offense. And so we're not going to get too in depth to what happened to me at Charleston. That's a story for an off-camera time. I became OC. We ran the pro style, but I solely ran more of the stuff out of more towards the spread. Head coach went more going towards the spread. So then it became, let's run inside zone, outside zone, trap, power, counter, all out of spread, which is fine. But then we had our passing concepts where we could change them whenever we wanted. So let's say you want to run hitches on the left side, slants on the right side. So I would signal in like hitch, slant. And so from left to right, they're running hitches, they're running slants. And that's how it was. And the reason why is because the head coach wanted me to call plays every 12 seconds. And so I had to figure out a way, to get what I wanted, all of that. So to be nice, I was a handcuffed offensive coordinator because we ran that. I said, let's move towards a Mike Leach passing game because I don't care what offense you run. You can incorporate some of those things into you don't have to throw the ball. I do not want to throw the ball 70 times a game. That's not what I want to do. But I want to have the opportunity to say, we can do mesh or shallow or white cross, put us in that situation. I have a dog, if you guys hear that. She's barking. It's fine.
Good.
No, I lost my train of thought. So I wanted to move towards that, but we didn't get to that point. We continued to stay with passing concepts of, we call it hitch slants. It was called button. It's just basically your 15-yard curl in and a speed out to do that. Your smash concepts, gators, where there's a 10-yard out, 10-yard in, or whatever. Then I moved on from that school, started all over. I wasn't the OC anymore. I went to a school called Glenbard East in Illinois. He's a spread team, but it was the simplest spread. We were a huddle spread. Nobody's ever heard of that, a huddle spread team. Never heard of it. Very simple. We had three formations. Your 2x2, which we called ace, trips, and empty. That was it. That's all we did. We had some air raid concepts in there. We had our run game in there. We ran inside zone and trap. And then if we wanted to, and then we ran QB power. That was it. That's all we wanted to do. We went 10-1 that year. We kept it so simple. So I was a part of something like that. Went on to another school. That school, the head coach came from North Central College. They just won the Division III national championship this year in football. We ran their stuff. It looks like an Auburn offense. We had it was power read. Power read was our bread and butter. It was 3rd and 5, power read. That's what we were going to do. But we had a little bit of the air raid passing concepts. I had to come in with some RPO stuff that I learned. Current school. We're installing Monday. We get to be around the kids Monday for the first time since June and July. I already kind of know what we want to look like. Who knows if it's going to look that way? It's going to be a lot of the same type of thing. Tight end, head down the ground, H-back, sniffer. We're going to be a power team. We're going to be you call belly, we call ISO, just because it's spread terminology. These kids don't even know what belly means besides that offensive line coach, Steve Kuchefski, that has his belly out or something. I don't know. That's what they're going to think. So we're going to be power read, ISO, RPO a little bit. We have some air raid concepts in, but that's just because the reads for the quarterbacks are stupid simple. Like if I can understand it, then anybody can understand it. It's literally 1, 2, 3, throw. Like it's you look here, and you're done. They can rep it over and over. We're gonna do all that kind of stuff. So since I've been around everything, that's kind of why he wanted me to take care of the run game. I've been around the option. I've been around your pro style type is what I call it. There's no other way to call it besides pro style.
Yeah.
I've been around your spread. I've been around your power spread, and then now going here. So I'm going to incorporate it all and all of that. So that's the long answer. We can talk more about what we did, but I've been around it all. But the Charleston stuff we can talk about off air. That's fine.
Now, when you run trap out of the gun, because I'm always curious on how people deal with this. Do you trap the end man? Who do you trap and who do you pull? Because everybody's a little different on that aspect.
When I was at Charleston as the OC, like I said, the nice way to put it is I was handcuffed. So there was only certain things that I personally could do. I had to do what was told. When I ran trap, we were a no huddle signal in. Trap, I never called right or left or whatever. It was up to the quarterback. I wanted to trap the 3 tech all the time. So so when the quarterback come up, we had to call, like it might be, I think it was Tulsa. So if Tulsa's trapped to the left, he'd come up and yell Tulsa because the 3 tech's to the left. That's what we're going to do. Then when I moved on, it was kind of the same at Glenbard East. Then when I went to my next school, we could trap the 1 tech or the 5 tech. It just kind of depended on what he wanted to call. And the lineman had a, salt and pepper call. Pepper was more out wide. Salt was really close. So he was yelling. And it was always the guard. It was always the guard pulling. So we could trap wide or trap short. But when I was OC, I was like 3 tech all the time.
Yeah.
If we had 2 head up guys on the guards, I told the quarterback, just pick one. And at that point, it doesn't matter. Just pick one. And it worked best out of pistol. Trap worked best out of pistol. So when I ran trap, I called pistol a lot. So it just, I don't know why. And it was kind of the same thing where I just was at when we could line up in a pistol, and trap worked beautifully, more downhill, more he flies up because pistol, he gets trapped, and we're right up the gut.
No, I get you. Like, I mean, we tried a little bit of trap. My second year here at Fairborn, we started more pistol wing T and kind of merged as the season went on to more under center. And we just didn't like trap out of the pistol. We just felt it was too slow compared to under center fullback trap. I mean, I don't know why that worked the way it did, but that's part of the reason why I always ask people out of the gun. Because our quarterbacks coach who's new for Springfield Central County, he's like, part of the problem is you're trying to trap with, just timing wise, it wasn't working. He's big on out of the gun trapping what would be like a 5 technique. So.
Yeah, we could do that, but then at that point, I said just run power or just run a power read at that point.
Now, if you had to choose, what is your, if you could pick a run play that you've ran efficiently what would you pick for a high school team? Like that to be your bread and butter, if you could choose.
I'm going to pick inside. I have 2.
Okay.
Kind of. I love inside zone. I don't know why. I know a lot of people find it hard and confusing and hard for high school kids. I'm very stupid simple, so I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but when I explain it through my mind to these kids, and sometimes it's almost too simple.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if you're a spread team, there's so much you can do off of inside zone to get what you want. So like when I was at Glenbard East, he did not want to run like an outside zone that was just adding too much. So then we had to figure out how do you get an outside run play. And so I don't know what a lot of people want to call it. And I did a YouTube thing on it because Ohio State runs the piss out of this, is they'll run, if you call it 8, if it's just called an 8 Buckeye or something, I don't know what you want to call it. Your right tackle is running out to go block somebody. Everybody else is running inside zone to the left. Quarterback has the option it's power read without the puller.
Yeah.
And so he didn't want to do power read. He just wanted to run power. So to get an outside run play, that end is making the decision of if you're going to hand the ball off to the running back to run behind that tackle and your wide receiver's blocking, or the quarterback can keep it, run that inside zone. So you're getting an inside zone, you're getting an outside run. So I think there's just things you could do off of it. You can do your pins and pulls, you can do all that, which that's getting complicated. I think that's where the complication comes in of pin and pull, I guess, where how do you decide who's going to do it? How do these linemen figure it out? But inside zone, I feel like it can be done very well. At the school I was just at, it was inside zone and power. Those were the 2 that we called. And then eventually we started to do the outside zone, which the reason why it worked so well is because we didn't run it so much. So when a team saw it, they're like, oh, they didn't do that last week. They're running outside zone. I just don't like outside zone because if you teach it a certain way, like sometimes they open up all the way and they run this way. I don't like that. I don't like opening up and going that way. I want to be this way. I always want to go forward. That's why I do skip pulls of like aim. I'm always aiming for the A gap sometimes with my power. I tell them to aim there, but you may end up here. But I want to get up as quickly as possible. I don't want to go side to side crap. I'm an offensive line. I was offensive lineman. I don't want to run. I want to go forward. I don't want to be going this way. I want to go this way.
So what was you said inside zone your first option. What's your second option?
This is where I answer it differently every day. Today I'm going to tell you one thing, and tomorrow I'm going to tell you something else. If you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I'd say trap. There's going to be inside zone and trap. I love trap. This year, if you ask me today, I'm going to tell you inside zone and power. Just because I think it depends on where you coach at. Last year, power was bread and butter. They're a power team, power read. That's what they're going to do. We had a running quarterback. We could do it. So as of today, I'm going to tell you inside zone and power. Next year, it might be inside zone and trap. But
yeah.
Those would be the two.
My issue historically with inside zone is I just don't have the what I would classify as athletic enough linemen for the teams I play historically. Trap, though, I love. I actually, when I started into coaching, I hated trap. Absolutely hated it. And then as I've gotten older and less dumb, I've realized how there's always big play potential with trap.
Mm-hmm.
Trap will either go for 2 yards or it will go for 45 yards. Like, it can just seem, and it usually hits when you don't think about it. Oh, it's 3rd and 12, trapped for field position, and he busted for 15. Okay. It just works out that way.
Then with inside zone, my way to get around the lineman thing is just to create double teams. At that point, I'm like, and here's my opinion, this is how dumb I am. I think athletic linemen, you need them to get into the linebackers because that's the cutbacks to get to linebackers. That's what it is. If I don't have the lineman to do that, I just focus on double teams. I say I could give a rat's ass about the linebackers. If you blast those double teams into them, great. If not, we're going to get 3 or 4 yards out of it. You guys make fun of me for the air raid, but I'm all about running the ball. If you get 3 or 4 yards on a run play, we are golden, and I'm fine with it. So I think that's my way of getting around the athletic linemen. Because some people run inside zone where there's no double team. It's take a step and go up. I want double teams. So, at that point, I don't know if you want to call it inside zone. Is it belly? Is it ISO at that point? But then I feel like if it's inside zone, you're doubling all the time. Then you could get into your ISOs or your duos or whatever because you're already double teaming. You can just add an H back up there. So I'm dumb. So to me, I'm like, I don't have athletic linemen. We're just going to double team, which then helps create double team drills for power. They're like, oh, this is how you double team the same way. You're stealing reps at that point.
Well, I like to offset my, because that's kind of the path I'm going on is either be a head coach or an OC at this point because I've coached everything else. That's part of the reason why I started researching duo so much. I mean, yes, people call it power at the puller, but if you listen to, God, I just blanked on his name, former Browns O-line coach. Oh, God. He actually used to be at the Bears, too. Oh, I can't remember his name right now. He's on Hugh Jackson's staff.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, if you listen, I have an old Cool Clinic tape of him talking about duo, and he makes it sound more like it's just gap version of zone is how he functions it. But I do have something for you, Coach, because I want your opinion on it. I have a feeling of how you're going to physically react to this, but I want more of a live reaction of this. Now, be mindful, this is 3 years ago. So, isn't that beautiful, Coach? Look at that. Look at that. What are your thoughts on the double wing offense?
It needs to go. No. I actually really like it because of the if-then philosophy. So I clarify myself every time we're on Sheffers, and I have to defend myself here. We can get it. So after this, you can ask me why I like the spread. Like, and I feel like it depends on the person. I feel like it depends on your situation, where you've been around, whatever. I like the wing tee because of the if-then philosophy. You have something in there to counter what they're going to do. And if they stop you just because they have the better offense or the defense, or your kids just are not into the game, I like it for those reasons. That's beautiful. Like, I'm an offensive lineman. I want to run the ball. I want to hit people. It looks beautiful. It's a lot of misdirection. I coach defense for a little bit, and we went against the Pistol Wings or whatever. I hate seeing the misdirection, and that's what. And so the misdirection you can do out of it. You never know who's going to get the ball. Now that tight, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. But...
Oh no, that's a whole different level. Like we rushed for 4,900 yards that year, went 7-3. There's two teams we physically couldn't do anything against, and actually I posted one of those videos this morning. But yeah, I mean it's a different level. I mean our head coach's goal was 5 yards a carry. I mean superpower was our play where you lead your quarterback up through. It was great. That's a whole nother animal. I mean I'll put it this way, and this might hurt your soul a little bit though. We threw for a total of 35 yards that season. That's part of the reason we lost 2 of those 3 games we lost was because we physically couldn't throw. Like, we just couldn't. It was not. But, hey, when you rush for 4,900 yards and go 7-3, it's fairly successful.
You don't need to throw it at that point. Don't even worry about it.
No, like I said, there's 2 games where we really needed it. The third game we lost, there was a lot of weather and other weird factors in that game. But that's a whole other conversation. All right, I want to go before we wrap up. I do want to go into Mike Leach because you are a Mike Leach fanboy, as I would classify you. Let's start with this. What is your fascination with the air raid offense? I mean, Mike Leach, that's the easy one. His press conferences figure that out, and he's a genius. But why do you like the offense? And if you had an opportunity to run the offense, would you throw it 45, 50 times? You've kind of already mentioned you wouldn't, but if you had that ability, would you?
So I like his offense because how simple it is. People hear air raid and they're like, oh my gosh, that is so difficult. And I said, you know what's difficult? We'll go back to the wing team. You know how many blocking schemes that is for an offensive lineman? Now, I know if you have your rules, I'm not saying you, but I've seen wing T teams where you have so many run schemes. And I know with wing T, the defense is only going to line up a couple ways against a wing T because that's the only way you can do it. Spread, they can line up so many different ways. But if you have rules, and that's why I try to bring to a spread team is if we have rules, I don't care what it is, on, down, inside, if it's always that way or whatever it is. The offense is very simple. I study. I'm no Coach Ron Mackey. I'm no whatever. But if you study it, it's very simple. The reads are very simple. You live and die by it, kind of like the run game. You can make tweaks off of it, tags off of it. Now, I would not throw it 70 times a game because I try to tell people, take some of those passing plays of Mike Leach's and put them in your offense and try to make it that way. Make the reads the same, find grass, and it can work. But also keep your run plays because that's the thing. When I was at Glenbard East, we went 9-0 that year. We said so many. It was the first time going to the playoffs since 1999, and this was in 2018. So I wouldn't say it was the offense, but what helped was how simple the passing plays were to the quarterback. But at the same time, we could run the ball. There was one time we ran trap 8 times in a row from spread just because it was working. We got 6 yards. I'm telling the head coach, run trap the other way now, run trap this way. That we were prepared to throw the ball, we were prepared to run the ball. So I like it. I have a story. When I was OC, I never want to pass the ball that many times. If I have to, I will. I was OC in a game, and my offensive lineman could not run block to save our life. But we could pass block. We would pick up pass. We didn't have 1 sack. So I don't remember all the plays I called as you guys, an offensive coordinator. Sometimes it's a blur at the end of the game, like, oh, I got to go back and look what I called. Newspaper reporter came up to me. I knew who he was. Steve, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay. He goes, off the record, have you been watching a lot of Mike Leach games? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, according to my stats, you threw the ball 43 times. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, you threw the ball 43 times. And so I realized I threw the ball 43 times. 12 of those were RPOs, though, so it's not my fault. we threw the bubble or the undercut or the key screen. So I kind of forgot your question, so I'm going to ramble on. I knew I wanted to be a spread person. So when I was in high school, we ran the ball. Spread was like that forbidden fruit on the tree that you couldn't touch. It was, it was that forbidden thing you didn't know. It was, I would watch Oregon, I'd watch Florida with Tim Tebow and all of this and that. Then I watched that Texas Tech game with Michael Crabtree and the catch. And I kind of said, okay, if I ever coach, I want to learn the spread. I want to put myself in that situation. So Coach Sheffer, if you're listening, we all remember that Texas game and Texas Tech game when they lost. I watch that game once or twice a year. I have to go right back and watch it. But no, I would not throw it 70 times unless they dared me to. But no, I just love the offense. It's so simple. If you actually install it and look at his formations and look at what he does, it's so simple. And if I was a head coach or an OC and we went to the spread, that's how I would start. I would start with those formations. I'd start with some of those pass plays, and then we'd build off from there. If I have a tight end, I'll bring a hand down tight end. If I have an H-back, I'm going to have the sniffer. I'll run the ball. We'll, do whatever. But that's the long-winded version, I guess.
Now, in terms of what are your preferential concepts you like out of that offense?
Of Mike Leach's?
Yes.
I love mesh, but mesh takes a long time to practice. So I feel like if even the team, we went 9-0 and 10-1, we ran mesh, but we didn't practice it as much as you probably should have. So I like mesh. I like shallow. I really do like stick. And I really do like the tags you can do off. I think that's the big thing. Because mesh, if people don't know, it's 92 if you want to go real deep into it. It's not meant to be mesh is first. They were looking at those corner routes first. If you look at Mike Leach's way, because there's Mike Leach's way and Hal Mummy's way. But Mike Leach's way with those outs, that's what it looked like. Then it was the mesh. And so I think that's what people don't realize. So at a high school level, if you can adapt it to those outs, then you got the mesh. They're not worried about it. Then all of a sudden you're up in the box. Hey, that safety's coming down hard on those meshes or that shallow. Run a post right behind it. Bang. There you go. And stick's kind of the same thing. You can have that quick. If you have a guy that can beat him one-on-one, it's automatic. You got the running back. Then you can make an RPO out of it. You could hand the ball off for your inside zone or whatever, and you just tell the quarterback, you're reading the same linebacker for that stick. If he flies out with the run play, throw the stick. If if he sits there, just hand it off. The quarterback always has an out at that point, so that's why I like those, because then take Mike Leach's stuff, make the reads the same, add a power and inside zone, and tell the quarterback. I think that's a perfect way if a quarterback's struggling on the reads to give him an out, and that's why I don't want to throw it 70 times. It's if he's struggling with what he's reading or the defense is doing something funky, give him an out and say, okay, I'm going to tag this. I'm going to have inside zone with stick. Now he has an out to where if he doesn't know, he can just hand it off. It makes it a little bit easier.
Well, that's one of the rumors going around is that he's going to do some more stuff, more RPO / H-back stuff at Mississippi State just because of the personnel he's currently got. He doesn't have 85 receivers like he normally does. He got left with several tight end / H-back kids. I mean, that was one of the rumors that was going around like a month or two ago. We'll know in the next couple weeks. But, yeah, I mean, every place I've been, we've run probably some air raid-ish concepts. I mean, we run a couple and we're wing T offense. Like, it's not exclusive just to the shotgun. I mean,
no, everybody can run it. And so I always try to tell people that. That's why I wanted to run it when I was at Charleston this is stupid simple. The reads are the same, because they were trying to teach the quarterback, hey, 1 high, 2 high, whatever. And I'm like, no. Let's just do, progressions. And then if it's not working, then I'm going to tag an RPO off of it or something to help with those reads. And then now that you bring that up, I need to look at my old 22 film. If you guys go back and look at Texas Tech, he had hand down H-backs, hand down this, tight ends. He used to do that back at Texas Tech, and then when he got to Washington State, I think he wanted to go back more towards
The original.
his pure thing. And then I'm curious to see his RPOs, because his RPO is the quarterback checking the play, because he said an RPO is 2 or 3 plays in one. So if he calls a play and the quarterback comes up and that play's not going to work on the defense, quarterback checks it to something else. He goes, that's my RPO. Like, I'm just going to change it to this. Because Mike Leach gives everything to the quarterback, whereas Hal Mummy didn't. Hal Mummy said, you're going to run this.
Yeah.
And I'll take the blame. And then Mike Leach is the quarterback. And that's why if you guys watch him, he'll call a play. You know, it might be 92, but think, you know, this other play, and the quarterback can check it to whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what he thinks. I don't think he calls run plays. I think the quarterback checks it to the run play. I don't think he calls that at all. But we'll see what he does in Mississippi State. I don't know.
They check the inside zone. The
film I have, it's like inside zone, a little bit of power, like once in a great while, and duo, because he gets those double teams. So
yeah.
But I think it's inside. They call it duo, but it looks like inside zone. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everybody calls duo power with the poor, but half the time when you watch film, you can't. There are people argue constantly, and they do this on Twitter, and I've watched YouTube videos on it. I will actually have a video that will release after this one, and we'll look at 3 Redskin clips and be like, is this duo or is this inside zone? But like, it looks a lot like inside zone at times, and that just is what it is. A lot of it, from my understanding, because I'm still trying to figure out duo, is kind of the angles and the double teams, how the steps, essentially. I mean, you're doing the same thing, you're just doing it different way. Inside zone's usually to a 2-man surface, whereas duo is to a 3-man surface, and usually everybody blocking back, essentially, double teaming backwards, whereas inside zones everybody's going front side. Like, that's how my understanding so far, and I'm still just getting into that rabbit hole.
Well, here's an unpopular thing was, I said duo looks like inside zone with a lock on the backside. So if you're trying to run inside zone right, you leave that back end alone. Well, if you call inside zone lock and you do that because you probably want to run an RPO out of it or something, that's what it kind of looks like, because everything from, if you're going to the right, left guard on is inside zone. That guy's hitting the end. So I'm like, is that just inside zone, lock? So, and that's why my inside zone looks different, because not everybody goes to the right. If you got a one tech on the center, my guard, usually you want them to go this way. I tell them to go back and double. So mine's double teams. So some people might say, that's not inside zone. He's not going to the right. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I said, to help with the lineman athletically, I'd rather have that double team, because the running back is A-gapping and banging it out. So I'd rather take care of that first than that. Now, if I have an athletic offensive line, I will get to that point where I may tell them, hey, everyone just take a step to the right and go forward. And that's another misconception of inside zone, is it's not going to the right laterally. It's going to the right upwards. Everybody's going up. But that's also a hard way to teach, and that's why people don't want to teach inside zone, I think, sometimes, because it's hard to teach them to go forward. I freak out. I'm an old school guy. If they turn around and look at me, they better run the other way, because I'm like, you better not be turning around looking at me. If I see an offensive lineman trying to look at me, my foot is going up your butt. Parents, you don't want to hear that, but that's what's going to happen. You better run. I'm quick in a 20-yard dash. You better run, because I'm going to freak out.
Well, that's like, I had a buddy of mine who's coached a lot longer than me. He's a lot smarter. He coaches at a school right by us. We played him earlier in the year. But he messaged me, what was it, Thursday or Friday? He's watching some film. He's like, is this inside zone or is this duo? And that's where we're at. He sent me 2 different clips, and I'm just like the first one looks like bad inside zone. The second one to me looks like duo, based off angles and footwork. So, I mean, like, going back to the Redskins real quick, like, I watched one of them that they ran out of 2x2 on one play, and they were able to get away with that because they motioned a guy and kind of sold like a bad shuffle to freeze the end so they can just double team the rest of the way. It was an interesting little thing. Like I said, that's something I'm going to try to film later today, in all honesty, so I can have it out next week and kind of go from there.
Like if I shared my screen and drew up a play, would you be able to tell me if it was duo or inside zone? That's the way it's.
Yeah, I mean to me it's to
like here, and then I tell them to double here, and we're gonna go find somebody, take him. You're gonna gallop step and come up.
Oh,
what does that look like?
you just told me it's duo. You use the
This
word
is inside zone.
you use the word gallop step. To me, I mean, here's what I'll ask: one, who's your tailback reading, and two, what's his aiming point?
So we tell them you're going to aim here, like to this gap, and then we're going to try to bang it back because the quarterback's got this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the terminology. I can't remember what some use. They use like
Well,
like a bang, like a bang, like a gap, and then bang it out. And that's why I want this double team, because some guys with your inside zone, if I know how to do huddle at all, it's been a while. Some guys just say, you've got him, you're going to go up here, take him, you go here, and you just go upwards.
Well, that's the main reason I would say yours is more. It's kind of almost a combination of both, because with your guard coming back onto that nose, and then them double teaming to climb, that's more duo-ish than true inside zone-ish. But again, you're simplifying inside zone for your kids. I mean, what any good coach is going to do. If it helps your kids be successful, that helps your kids be successful.
Because then sometimes this turns into, instead of necessarily going back, instead of stepping back, sometimes I tell them you're just gonna like pick your foot up, put it down to come forward. If he enters that zone, it's a double team. But sometimes I tell him to step back if this center needs help, because one time we had a center that just couldn't do it. So I said, okay, step this way, block him with, I call it flipper, like you're going to go bang and go. And yes, I use the word gallop step because if this guy comes out, I want to gallop step and then blast him off of there and then go. I'm old school that way. We're going to say gallop step to get where we need to go.
Oh, I love the gallop step. I listened to somebody talk about that, and I've had a coach come on here talk a little bit about it. Like, I think it's a great technique to help offensive linemen. Just so useful. Allows them.
I want to draw this just because it's up. You continue talking. I'm just going to draw something up.
Good. Like I said, that's what we're here for. There we go.
So
I'm guessing the Ohio State power read thing.
Yeah, we ran it at the school I was at. This is what we did. Now, Ohio State, they'll have this H-back. They run with an H-back. He'll be here.
Yeah.
Or this wing, excuse me. He'll put him here. We ran it like this. So the only time I told the offensive line we're going to run is on this play. He literally churned, and I told him to run. And Ohio State has this guy look back inside for this guy, because that was the only problem was this guy, which I'll get to how we did it in a second. So I told him to run, and we're going to aim for whoever's out here. You're going to have help with this guy, and this guy's going to go block. Quarterback is reading the end, and it's just a normal read of, if he's sitting there, hand a ball off to the running back, he's going to go. If he flies out, keep it and run behind this inside zone. And the problem was this Mike backer, which that's what we were trying to figure out. Now, sometimes he might run with that running back because he's probably got him or something's going to happen. In this end, sometimes if he does what I've coached defensive line, if you get hands on, you're probably running with them. You're trying to figure out. So if you and our right tackle, well, he's running with me. I'm not supposed to touch him. I said, no, that's a good thing. You're taking him away. Now we've got this opened up. So then if that backer was giving us a problem, we would just motion a guy and run it. So instead of calling it 8, we'd motion this guy and call it 18. Now it's the exact same read. If this guy sits, they may move. If that guy motions, they may move a little bit. Yeah. And then now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers. Hand it off to this H-back if we need to, or the quarterback keeps it.
Yeah. No, I've seen them run it a couple times. It's a good scheme. Like I kind of wish they would run a little bit more of it. I mean, that's again. I'm not going to sit here and say I've been the biggest spread guy, but with doing these clinics and these conversations with their coaches, like if you tell me I can run the ball efficiently out of the gun, I'll run the gun. Like That's the main thing. Like, I want to be able to run the ball. Do I like throwing it a little bit too, especially since I'm a receivers coach right now? Yeah. I love the old run and shoot choice concept. It's one of my favorite things. I
Mhm.
enjoy mesh. I think mesh is a fantastic play, especially the more I research it. And the thing is that here's the thing, there's a billion different ways you can run mesh. Like, that's the thing. Like, obviously you're gonna have two what I call drag routes in the middle, but you have old school mesh there with the outs. There's people that do like post dig behind it. There's Ohio State does that like spot route in the middle of the field by like the Z. Um, there's a billion different ways like to run all the extra stuff.
And one way in high school, we did shakes, where he comes in, comes
Yeah,
out, and then comes back out. In high school, if you got a guy that can do it, which we did, I would tell him one time, just call shakes this side quarterback would just shake his hand like, hey, and then there we go.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
especially if you got a receiver that can stem real well like that, and that understands leverage and coverages, how to adjust that top of that route to get open. That's abusive.
and I told they didn't do this until I got there. You read the softest corner to make this
Yeah.
decision, and that's where your read comes in.
Yeah.
So if this guy's way off, this is where we're looking first. Then we look back into here.
Well, the RBO thing is if you have smart kids, or at least kids that are experienced enough to understand things, like because you'll get that team, we all get that team that just wants to play man coverage the entire game. When they start trying to play press against you, like that's where you teach them auto fade, and like there's just so much you can do off it, which I enjoy. But again, I still want to be able to run the ball. I still want to be able to run. Like the more I get into duo or power, I love power read. I spent a year at Westland High School with Kyle Goebel, and that was our bread and butter was power read. Now it also helped we had a tank at quarterback too. Like Clay Carroll was fantastic. Like he read it well, and he would just run people over. It was beautiful. I love me some power read.
And then I kind of did power different, and I told coaches, so normal power right here, if I can figure out huddle. I know people always tell this guy to go here.
Yeah.
What started to happen at the school I was at was this backer gave us problems. So here's, you guys out there listen, I always told this guy, you're going to aim here. But if he blitzed, we would just leave him alone. He's like, well, that's not what you told me to do, coach. That's not what you said.
Yeah.
So I finally said, screw it. I wanted this to hit faster, so you're going to go get him. Screw it. This guy, you're aiming back in here. Screw it. We get a double here, and they'll eventually get to him. So that didn't even end up being like that. It ended up being, you go find somebody, you hinge. Well, actually, that's the wrong way. Yeah. So we're here, and that's what it ended up looking like.
Yeah.
And people thought I was crazy, and I said, but for power read, this works because it hits faster. You don't have to worry about anything. Power is a little different. This year, when I get to the school, instead of telling this guy to aim for him, I'm just going to say, see the ball right here? You see this line? Not that line. I can't draw. You see this line where the ball is? I want you to aim inside, and whoever shows up, shows up.
Well, that's where like as the guy who's run power forever, like that's where I talk to as tackles about paths. Like, is somebody in your path? So if that Mike rolls down to that B gap, he's in your path. You bury him. If he doesn't roll down to your B gap, you follow your path and bury that will. What I really love though is setting the tailback to the other side and running what out this would be H power read with jet motion.
Mm-hmm.
I love we did that all the time. You put a decent athlete out there at H. Oh, that's abusive. Yeah, and you can do that this set too.
Yeah, we did.
I love this set too. Oh.
We did that. We would do.
God.
We would run power.
God.
And then he'd go here. Because I brought this over from the school I was at. Why am I drawing it that way?
I don't know.
Run out here, motion him, quarterback. He's more block it up, and we read him, and we could pull one and go or hand it off.
Yeah. Oh no, I get you. Like,
guys, it's been all summer. I don't do huddle as much now, so I got to remember.
I essentially don't use Huddle at all. I use Microsoft Visio. Huddle drives me insane. It's too fidgety for me, and like I love the simplicity of it, but at the same time, there's certain things you can't mess with. It's too fidgety, and if I do ever switch schools, you can't. It's hard. It's just a pain in the ass to take that stuff with you. Whereas if I put it on a slideshow or Visio, I just take it with me. But yeah, I mean, Power Read is just, if you got decent kids, is just fantastic. But I do that set you did have where you have the tailback and the Y H back, or however you want to call that. I know people that call it sniffers, and it drives me insane. But I love quarterback sweep out of that too. When I was at Lakewood High School, we played Heath every year, and they'd put the H back and the tailback on the same side. They put two receivers on the other side, and they would just run the shit out of quarterback sweep. And they had some athletes.
Don't worry, I'm drawing your belly.
Well, out of this, it's ISO. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, that's another play I used to, like, growing up, I hated ISO. And I hated ISO because I didn't understand it. That's the problem. I love belly because I understand it, and I love ISO, and I've called it ice. That's what most spread guys call it, is ice. And like I said, it's a great play, especially with belly blocking rules where you can adjust based off the front properly, and it's great.
I had a hard time understanding ISO when I was getting into the spread, so I was like, don't even put that in. Let's stick to inside zone or outside zone or power counter. And then the coach, I used to be at Illinois College. I don't know why, I saw him explain it years ago. Then he was on Chief Pigskin and he explained it. It clicked with me all of a sudden. For some reason, when he showed it, I said, oh my God, if you call ISO right, you're just not hitting this backer. The linemen are worried about him. They don't give a rat's ass about him. So, like, if it was to the right, this guy's getting him instead.
Yeah.
It's not a Y. I just moved him over here. It's never the Y, it's the H. But,
yeah,
like, it just clicked with me all of a sudden. And so this was like 3 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, it's finally hit with me. Because belly out of, I don't know, I can understand belly out of under center, but then when you put him to spread, it just did not click. I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And then I saw that, and I was like, oh my goodness. So the school I'm at now, we're going to put this in. I'm going to explain it the same way, and it's simple.
Well, that's the thing, like, as I'm evolved, and actually, because, I mean, we've all been there when we first get into coaching. We think we know everything, and we don't know crap. Like, I think, and some schools do this really well, and a lot don't at the high school and college level. There are schools that know how to use an H-back efficiently, more than anything, in terms of run game protection, occasionally getting the ball, passing. Like, it is it's a fullback, and that position got lost, and I think now teams have started to figure out how to use it with really better athletes. Instead of having that big old 6'1", 250-pound kid, you now have a 6'4", 250-pound kid who can run there and block. Like, I think that's the biggest difference, and that's again where I go back. I love duo. I need an H back. I don't necessarily need a tight end. I need an H back type kid so I can get my double teams and abuse you. But yeah.
And then last thing. So the big thing on air raid is 6. I cannot teach 6 to save my life. That one. So when I was at the school I was at now, they did. There's only this, and everybody in the world does it. But any young coach that ever sees this, you can do it. So if we called 6, we called it something else. If this corner was 4 yards off, it was a hitch automatically. If he was up, we just ran a vertical.
Yeah.
And then we base these. So everyone's like, oh, so if he's like this, are they both running hitches? That's getting in the way. That's making it murky. And so depending on what the teams did, we just told them to run verticals. These inside guys were automatically running verticals. And if he was pressed, run a vertical. That's how simple it was. Then we could get, since we were a huddle team, the reason why we had these guys run verticals is because we could eventually do something else. So like if he hopped this way or this way, then in a huddle, we could say, hey, run 6, but H post or something,
yeah,
or whatever, like run this post if he's moving over. essentially.
Oh yeah, that's and I think that's part of the reason why you hear Mike Leach just trash cover 3 all the time, because he's always got answers for it. I personally love cover 3, but again, like stuff like that where you over rotate your safety consistently, it's beautiful. But
or like if they did a cover 2 and we were always running verticals to open up this guy, well then eventually, like everybody in the world probably knows, if they're moving one way or the other, you could just tell this guy or whoever, see, I don't like huddle. I need to get something else. Just run up the middle.
Yeah.
Or we could tag a corner. It would go smash. Like, that was the beauty of being a huddle team, actually, was we didn't get complicated, but if we tag things in practice, then we could say it instead of signaling it in was, hey, run 6, but this guy's doing this, so wide corner. Like, take this real quick.
Yeah.
Instead of going 6 smash, because the kids wouldn't think that way. Like, hey, run this, keep your reads the same, but why you're going to run a corner? And our minds were like, oh, it's smash, but in their minds it was, I'm just running a corner.
Well, that again goes back to you got to make it simple for what your kids understand. Just because you know it is smash, like they might not know it is smash. Kids don't watch nearly as much football as they used to.
Right.
That's just a fact. I mean, it sucks. It is what it is, but like again, you adjust and adapt to your kids. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. It just isn't going to work. So, well, Coach, I thank you for coming on today. As I've already posted on Twitter and a couple other places while you were talking, this will be out Monday. So I don't mess around. I get stuff edited and get put on. Coach's link to Coach's Sideline podcast will be in the bio for anybody interested in checking that out. Coach has got some good guests. For some reason, he had me on at one point. I know he's talking to a couple really good dudes to get on there here soon. He's had some former Last Chance U coaches on there. And I know we were talking about this before. You had somebody else you were mentioning that you had on there recently. But yeah, Coach is doing a great thing over there. You can also find me and Coach on Coach Sheffer's Armchair Coaching Podcast, when we talk about various college football programs. We just did Alabama and LSU most recently. For some reason, we're going to do Arkansas to my assistants next, because I think I mainly just want to wear my Arkansas shirt that I have for some reason. But yeah, thanks, Coach, for coming on. I appreciate it. And you enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
No, thanks you. And if you guys listen to Coach Sheffer, we also talk BYU 2 times in a row for some reason. Guys, go check out Coach's YouTube channel. I watch it at the gym. Believe it or not, I put it on the treadmill or whatever. I'm going to watch football stuff. This is his worst show, so we had to get it done first.
That's not true.
And if Coach ever wants to come on and talk offense, I'll get him back on. He can draw whatever he wants. Coach is out there, do all that with us. We'll get it done.
I can do that,
Thanks for having me on and talking. It's the worst show. We got rid of it. Go Bears and go Illini.
See you, Coach.